Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela with Blue Bear Flutes and bluebearflutes.com. You'll find us all over the web these days, as most of you know. And today's video lesson is on scales. Scales are something that professional musicians really hate to talk about. They're really the backbone of everything we do. But when you say scales to any of us, we always cringe. Scales are actually not that bad. They're actually kind of handy, like I said, something that we may not like to talk about, but it's something that is the backbone of what we do, really. So with regards to the Native American flute, many of you may already have it in your mind that what key your flute in is going to determine what scale it'll play. And in some ways, you're right. Of course, if it's an F sharp minor scale or F sharp minor flute, it's going to play an F sharp minor scale. Likewise, if it's an A minor flute, it's going to play an A minor scale. Having said that, the fingerings are the same from how you would play the blues scale, for example, on this flute, or an A flute or a D flute. The original minor pentatonic scale that we play Native American flute music in is going to be the same on this as it is every other Native American flute. The chromatic scale, although it'll be a different chromatic scale, you will play it using the same fingerings. And likewise with the blues and the major scale, although it may be a different major scale from flute to flute, it is going to be the same fingerings. So that's very helpful. Anyway, I will have a little printout here for you that you can download off our website, so you can find that, but we'll go over all of these scales. This is the original minor pentatonic, and the little note here that so many of you that play the modern 6-hole Native American flute, that's the one that you're supposed to keep the third finger covered all the time, third from the top. There's a note there for it, and you can learn how to play that on a 5-hole flute or a 4-hole flute or any kind of flute. Then also there is the Tonic Major, which really is the major scale of the major tonic of the flute. We'll talk about that in a minute. The blues scale and the chromatic scale. And like I said, this you can download and print out off of our website right now. It'll help you out a lot. So to get started, most of you are familiar with the minor pentatonic scale. That's the one that the Native American flute is typically played in, whether it be a 4, a 5, or a 6-hole flute, or what I like to call a modern 6-hole flute, that being the one with the extra hole here that you keep covered 9 times out of 10. So just to start for you, I'll play the standard original minor scale. Nothing to it, so just covering all the holes, uncover them one at a time till you get to the top. Go back down. Same scale, nothing to it. Now, as promised, the note for those of you who want to know how to play like Amazing Grace or something that requires you to use that one note that you can find on a modern 6-hole Native American flute. Don't want to confuse any of you. There's an extra note there that just is out of place at the scale. It's very easy to play. All you do is, let's see. Now it's not in the scale, so it sounds kind of funny, but the note there, it's a half step above this note. All you do is cover up those 2 holes, and it'll make the same note that on a 6-hole flute you uncover that hole for. So kind of simple. The next scale we're going to work with is the Tonic Major. The Tonic Major starts off on all Native American flutes with the bottom hole uncovered. So this note here, with the bottom hole uncovered, I should say, the note that is represented by that end of the fingerings, that note is the major tonic of the scale. An example with, this is an F sharp flute. It's an F sharp minor pentatonic Native American flute. The note there is A, so you can play A major on a F sharp minor flute. Likewise with like a minor pentatonic flute, when you uncover that bottom note, that's a C major. So you can play the C major scale on an A minor pentatonic flute, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So just to show you comparison contrast, we'll hit both of the scales on the F sharp and the A, However, we're playing A and C, so it gets a little confusing. And that's the hard part, is learning how to cover these 3 holes on a 5-hole flute, or just put some duct tape over your 6th hole if you have some other flute maker's 6-hole flute. Our flutes, you don't have to do that, but with some other flute maker's 6-hole flute that requires you to keep that hole covered all the time, keep it covered for this scale. So easy to play. The last 2 notes are probably the most technical, because you have to be able to cover these 3 holes, or 4 holes if you have the 6-hole flute of which we were speaking, and partially cover that. You don't want to fully cover that bottom hole, you want to half cover it. So watch one more time. Once again, start with the bottom finger off. This is a F sharp minor pentatonic flute we're playing the A major scale on. So you're partially covered, and should work just about the same on this A minor flute as mentioned, playing the C major scale by uncovering that bottom note. Some flutes may have a hindrance that won't allow you to play those last 2 notes, but for the most part, if you push enough air through it, it'll happen. So just partially covering that bottom hole, fully covering these 3 holes on a 5-hole flute, or 4 holes if you have one of those 6-hole flutes that requires you to put a piece of leather over it or something. So that was the major scale. The next is the blues scale. That's one of my favorite, as some of you probably know. Anybody that knows me personally knows that I love the blues scale. The blues scale is, you know, it's kind of like what scale that the Native American flute is in already. Native American flutes being a minor pentatonic instrument, the blues scale needs 1 more note, and I'll show you how to play it. So easy enough, watch. Now I'll show you one little trick here. With the blues scale, as I was showing you, you basically, the 1 note you're missing is this right here. It is the bottom 2 covered, the top 2 covered, or if you have that 6-hole flute, let's just keep something wrapped around there. And that note is open, and that's it. That's the blues note. But you can play it with only this finger covered too. And the neat thing is when you use that in conjunction with the other note. So watch. So you can actually do that little half step there and play the blues note, and it still sounds really good in the blues scale. So one more time. So a really neat scale, but once again, the standard blues scale on the Native American flute. And like I said, you can use just 1 finger there and it'll play a really neat note. Likewise, it plays the same on the A minor flute, which, you know, like I said, just experiment with every flute you have. It doesn't matter what key it's in, it will still play the blues scale. It may be a different blues scale, but it will play a blues scale. And finally, the hardest one that we all so worried about, learning how to play chromatically. Now, the real trick is if there's a song that you want to learn how to play, which we're going to get into in later videos, but if there's a song you want to learn how to play, all you need to do is find out the notes of the song and find out how to play them. You can print out this scale sheet that you can download off our website. You can print it out and write the notes underneath of each one of them, and that might help you to say, oh, that's the note I need, or that's the note I need. And if you're writing them down from the chromatic scale, then you're kind of set. It's real handy. My fingering chart that I'm giving you here is not one that is really, it's got the notes for each scale on it, but you can, you know, play each flute in that particular scale. So anyway, long story short, here is the chromatic scale. This is played on an F sharp minor pentatonic Native American flute. You can play it on any Native American flute. There's a lot of notes there. There really are. So I'm going to go back through one more time in slow motion. Feel free to stop the video, you know, do whatever you got to do. The scale sheet will probably help you out the most, but I'm the kind of person that likes to see somebody else do it before I try it. And especially on that little half cover note, that second note that we play there, watch your finger. It takes a little practice to get it exactly where it needs to be. Kind of like we're playing a kenna here. You're doing that little partial cover. So. Nothing to it. That's the chromatic scale. Like I said, it'll play the same. It won't be the same scale, but the fingerings are the same on every Native American flute, whether it be a 4-hole, 5-hole, 6-hole flute. As long as you know where the top note on a 4-hole flute is, you've already mastered this. The 5-hole, the modern 6-hole flute will play these notes the same, and our 6-hole flute that plays the traditional scale will play them the same as long as you don't use a top hole. Of course, you can eventually figure out how to use that for the substitute, just like you can on the modern 6-hole flute if you want to learn how to play that Amazing Grace note. Little joke. Any which way, I hope you guys have found this video very helpful. We have a whole series of them, not to mention hundreds of other videos on YouTube to help out with Native American flute playing, flute making, anything about the flute, Native American instruments or whistles or anything of the sort. We're there for you. I hope to hear from you very soon. Feel free to always leave us comments on our YouTube channel, send us messages on Facebook, Instagram us, or whatever you got to do. We look forward to hearing from you. Once again, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela signing out for Blue Bear Flutes and bluebearflutes.com. You guys have a great time playing your instrument. Take care.